Hi, welcome to this episode of Herald Cafe. Today with us we have got Tanmay Dhanania. He's an actor, screen actor, theatre actor, actor as a whole.
Actor.
Yes. And recently his claim to fame has come off because of the film The Shameless, which has won premiere in Cannes.
Yeah, it's premiered in the Cannes Film Festival in the Uncertain Regard category.
Yes, and first actor Anusha Sengupta won the best actor category there, and you have acted in that film.
Yeah.
And what I was reading about you, that the director has first casted you. Yes, how did that thing happen? Like,
So the Shameless happened because the director Constantine, he had seen my film Garbage at Berlin in 2018. Garbage is made by Q, who also lives in Goa, and I think he wanted to work with me in some capacity. So when this film came about, even though there wasn't a central male character, he wanted to somehow have me in it. So he pitched me this part of the best friend of the female lead,
okay,
who kind of is in some ways the only good man in her life.
okay,
And I liked the character, but it wasn't very well fleshed out. It was sort of like just the initial stages. So I said, we'll talk about this later. Like, when the film is about to shoot, then we'll see. Like, if I have other commitments, then maybe I won't be able to do it. But I was excited about it, and I thought it was a good script. It was a very powerful script. And in my mind, I had always thought that the lead has to be somebody I really respect.
okay,
And in order for me to kind of like do a part which is sort of supporting the film and supporting her, it has to be somebody who's a very good actor or somebody I have like deep respect for. And as it happened, many years passed because like the film took some time to take off, and he then approached Anasuya, my housemate and my closest friend, for the female lead, and she was very unsure about it, and I said, you must do this. So we actually made the audition. I made her audition
okay,
in our Goa house where we live together.
okay.
And then she got the part. Once she got the part, then there was no doubt in my mind. I was like,
Yes.
this is amazing. Like,
Yes.
rather than supporting some like male Bollywood star, like, I'm supporting my closest friend in her to restart her acting journey. So that's how it came about.
It's a good feeling of camaraderie also, and like professional both.
Yeah, totally. I think at that time, we obviously didn't know where the film would go. So I didn't do it because I thought, oh, this is a project that will go to Cannes or anything like that. I didn't think about it in that way. But, I really admire, like, sort of, I was talking about this earlier to you as well, about like the Kerala film industry or like even the Finnish film industry, the Romanian film industry, where there's a group of actors and then there'll be films where sometimes they'll be the lead and then other actors will support them. And then it'll switch it up. It's like very theater kind of idea of like an ensemble, of like a repertory, so to speak. So I think this idea of, you can hear it in my voice also, how I talk about being the lead or not the lead. But I think that's a very sort of Hindi film or like, like a Hollywood film kind of idea of like, are you the leading man or not? I think we also have to make work where we all kind of come together to make the work and don't just think about, oh, what is the billing? Like who's where, like that non-hierarchical way of doing it. And I think that was very beautiful about this because again, we all just came together to make something together.
And when you do a production like this, I think that trust level also helps enhance your capacities as an actor.
Yeah, I just finished another very grueling shoot actually, which is also a very interesting film that I worked on right before this film. And this film was shot in Nepal and my best friend was there shooting already for it.
Okay.
So I just felt very relaxed. Yes. I said that, like usually I do put in a lot of work and effort into my parts, but because I was shooting this directly after the other film, I had a few days to prep for the character, but what I really enjoyed was just this idea of letting go and being there for my friend. And just by being there for my friend, I was doing my character work because that's what I had to do in the film as well. So yeah, it was a lot of fun.
And you have been to that, Mami recently premiered Shameless in India, and you were also there in that premiere. How was the audience reaction?
It was beautiful. I think like Cannes itself was wonderful because so many people from Goa who live in Goa, so many people from Calcutta where I'm from, had different films there. So it felt very family. It didn't feel like we're going to an international film festival where we're in awe of like all these different kinds of people. It just felt like a group of us was going. And I think Mami was even more so because it was just, it's nice to bring a film home, so to speak. So to watch it again with my friends and my family, not my family, but my friends, our Bombay friends, it was just a very nice atmosphere of like hanging out with friends. It didn't feel like, oh, this professional, like, I have to like be a certain way or look a certain way or like present a certain way. It just felt very relaxed, and I think that was important.
So going back a little, you did your computer engineering,
Nuclear engineering.
Nuclear engineering in Berkeley, and then you did your Royal Academy of Dramatic Arts in London. So how do you think from a technical background to like a humanities subject, how did it happen? Like, what is the genesis of your acting?
Well, I think it's a long story. We've spoken about this a bit before. Like the family I came from in Calcutta was very orthodox, and there was no space to follow the humanities or the arts. But yet I was in Calcutta, so like I was very exposed to that, and I loved theatre. I loved making theatre with my friends in school. But I didn't have any means to pursue it. I didn't know how to go into it, and I was good at studies, so I applied for engineering in the States at Berkeley, and I got in. And that was a way for me to kind of explore the world as well, to get out of the space I was in. And I think like people say that, oh, you probably wasted 4 years of your life doing engineering if you knew you wanted to act. But I didn't know actually, firstly, what I wanted to do at that point. I just didn't have any avenues. And secondly, I think if I hadn't gone to Berkeley, I probably would not have been an actor today. Like I think Berkeley just gave me a lot of space to think, a lot of like, it just opened up my world.
Like a lot of options that accessibility to options have come up.
Yeah, also different ways of thought. I think in India, especially 20 years ago, there's very specific ways of thought that you are 18, you finish your ISC or whatever, your board exams, and then you go to like, try to get to St. Stephen's or whatever if you're, or like, go into IIT, FITG, all these kind of things. So like, there was all these kind of set pathways you're supposed to take, and then you're supposed to get married and like with me join the family business and all these things. But Berkeley was just like, you can be your own person, you can discover the world in a different way. And California has always been at the forefront of evolution and in terms of technology, but also in terms of ways of life.
True.
So that I think really opened me up. And while I was studying engineering there, I happened to chance upon an amateur theatre group. And I went up to them and said, I don't think I'll work as an actor for you guys because I'm brown and my accent is such. But I can do backstage work because I know a bit of theatre and I love it. And they encouraged me to like be part of their show. And that show became a massive hit. And then that's how it started up again. Like
it looks like that horse blinders that we have, suddenly gone away. And
correct. Yeah. And then I loosened out a bit. Like I realized that I can do both. So I finished my engineering, but I minored in theatre as well. But the last 2 years of my education, I knew that I would go on to become an actor. In order to stay in the States with my education, to keep getting my scholarship, I had to finish my engineering, which wasn't, again, I learned a lot from it. The ways of thought that engineering, the structure, the system that it gives you. Mathematics is poetry, for example. So there's a lot of concurrence with science and art that people don't understand. It's very beautiful. So it really opened me up to these possibilities and gave me space to explore myself, which was very important for me to then find my path as an actor.
And then you have done a lot of feature films, TV series, and you got a lot of awards and like, and it's not mainstream movies also. It's like kind of a artistic, independent films. Is it a choice that you took up?
It's a very interesting question. Like, firstly, I haven't won many awards. I've been nominated for a couple of them, but my films have won many awards, and I think that for me is more important. And that kind of sort of, I
teamwork
guess, shows what I try to stand for. That like it's not me, it's the team. Like we have to like make the film better. If my part in the film is small or short or like has been cut or whatever, I don't mind it as much as I used to when I was younger. I think the story, the rhythm of the film is the most important thing. So yeah, I think nobody chooses to be a certain kind of actor. I think what I did was I tried to stay true to who I am. And my instincts, because that's what got me anywhere. So I just didn't feel inclined towards the more mainstream films. I saw them as a source of money, I'll be very honest. Like if there was money behind it, then I was open to it. So I didn't still do any Bollywood films, but there are mainstream things that I've done, like commercials, for example, which I can openly talk about, that I did them for the money. I didn't think that this will advance my career, so I should do this or like this or that or anything like that. So the arts, especially, and like, especially like film and theater and acting, are things that happen because you're so passionate about it. There's something that kind of drives you towards it. So I had to follow that instinct of mine. I left engineering for this, right? I left So I didn't specifically choose a certain path. I think it just happened to happen that the things that I was attracted to, or the kind of filmmakers that were attracted to me, were making something that had more meaning, I would say.
It resonated with you.
Yeah. There was resonance, and like I loved the stories that they were trying to tell. And they were also challenging. So that, I think, for me, like I've always wanted to kind of explore things in a different way. I think so. Maybe that was why I kind of went that way, because I didn't think that would also, anyway, I didn't know if I would have a space in the mainstream, but
Then you were in the Hansal Mehta Scoop,
Yeah.
And that's a OTT, series, versus these independent films like Garbage or Brahman Naman and stuff. Is there, does the work culture will be different in these two?
There is a very big difference in work culture, but like with Hansal, it was just amazing because Hansal, not many people know, was one of the producers of Garbage as well. So he knew about me and my work.
Okay.
And he'd been wanting to work with me for a while, and he's actually comes from independent cinema himself, Aligarh and all these beautiful films he's made. So I trusted him completely, and he trusted me, and that was amazing because in a structure like that, usually an actor like me has to go through several rounds of auditions, and people have to sign off on me. But because it was Hansal, like there was no audition, like. He just told Netflix he wants me for the part, and he got me in. So
because he knew it is in you,
Yeah, but he respected me that way. Like, he gave me the full script. Like, I asked for these things. Sometimes in commercial films, they won't give you the full script.
They will just give it a part.
They won't tell you. They won't tell you exact dates. They'll say like, okay, let's spread over 6 months. Depending on the dates of the lead actor, who's some leading superstar and whatever. And I just, it's not about ego, but I feel like that doesn't work for me because I get stuck there. It's not even that much money that they offer you. They offer you like 100th of what they're paying the lead actors. But this wasn't the case here. So like, Hansal respected me. I liked the script. He gave me the entire 600-page script to read, which is like unheard of. And yes, there are different ways of working. It was definitely the biggest, not the biggest because I had done British television, which was also on a different scale, the kind of work that I did there. But it was on a huge scale. And I think with this kind of way of working, everybody wants to do their job really well, which is also a way of working, which is not a good or bad way. And people were doing it really well. Everybody was at their peak in that way. But because there's a crew and cast of 100 people, and there are like hierarchies are developed, like, in terms of like who's a star, who's not a star, like, where do you stand?
The catering stuff, lights.
All that kind of stuff wasn't my, I suppose, like my comfort zone in that way, but like there's a way to work around that as well, and the story has to be told. And I think what I like about Hansal is that for him, because he comes from like that indie space as well, he did not care about all these things. He said these are accoutrements, will be there because it's such a big show and all of these things have to be put in place. But he was very adamant that the story be told the way he wanted to. He was very amazing with actors. He gave us space to like create our scenes, which happens in an indie space anyway. So again, I was lucky enough, even in my more commercial and my mainstream OTT things, like even Made in Heaven, I was part of. And the director, Prashant Nair, is a wonderful director. I'd met him in LA and he really wanted to work with me. Again, he kind of shoehorned me into the role. He's like, I will work with you and nobody else for that. So I loved and respected that. And I got space to create that scene that I did in Made in Heaven. It's a very short scene, but we almost improvised it, which is unheard of again in this kind of a sort of setup. So even in the mainstream setup, I suppose I've been lucky enough to have directors who've trusted me and allowed me to work the way I like to work. I can't ask for more.
Yeah, so it's coming to my mind that you would like to see the holistic view of it before you get into it. You would like to know what is where, where you can come in rather than having parts. I think that also helps in that it's a culture of independent films, like how you said, it's a team first, like a trust, camaraderie. We work together to go ahead.
Well, they say that like when you're getting approached for a project, you should look at three things. The script, the money, and the kind of people you're working with.
Okay.
And if you get 2 out of the 3, you say yes.
Okay.
So I suppose for me, like the script is sacrosanct. The script is the first thing that I like to read. But honestly speaking, again, like, this is a profession. I think also the problem is sometimes people think that, oh, we should not take money for this art. And I think that is actually doing a disservice to the art and to the profession. And for young actors who want to make money doing this. Like, so then if you just come at it from a place of privilege that, okay, I'm going to make art because I am privileged enough to make art. I don't think that works either. So it's important to also understand how you can make a living and sustain yourself with this. You can call yourself an actor if you want to call yourself an actor, but I feel like you should call yourself an actor only if you're making a living through acting, because you have to respect the profession and kind of equalize it and not just be like, oh, the doctors and the lawyers and the civil engineers are actually doing more work and we are just kind of frisking around, like this is important work. And I think that kind of way of thought also I got from London, from RADA, where like you go to a party and there'll be an actor, a doctor, a lawyer, a plumber, and they can all kind of communicate with each other. Whereas in India, there's this whole thing of, oh, you're an actor, like, like, oh, what have you done? Like, like, what have you seen? Like, oh, you haven't seen you're a theatre actor. Like, like that kind of
and also finding the fine balance
Yeah.
between professional life and what is your passion, finding that.
Yeah, so I think like it is sad that actually the what you love and what you're passionate about and what is creatively very satisfying does not provide you money in this industry. That's something that's not wrong, but that's the polarization that's happened all over the world in many fields, which is also in India in the film industry. So it's a sad space that we are in. I think, again, it's not just like the commercial industry that's at fault. I think there are a lot of privileged independent filmmakers and like people who work in indie films who also think that I will not take money for this. But then you're not really doing a service to it, because if you don't sustain it, then it dies.
Yeah. So, and also now you stay in Goa.
Yeah.
And your film Garbage was shot in Goa. Can you tell us a little bit more about it? Or that is one. And second question will be, why did you shift to Goa and for how long you've been here?
I think so. Garbage, this film was actually one of the turning points for me in thinking about how I want to work, how I want to live my life, where I want to live. And it happened because, again, Q, like who I worked with him in my first film, Brahman Naman. He wanted me for this film that he was shooting in Goa. And it was a very crazy year for me that year. 2017, I was shooting many things. Okay. And I just, basically I only had 1.5 months because I was shooting something in Greece for the Durrells, for ITV. And the exteriors were shot in Greece and the interiors in a studio in London. But I had 1.5 months between that. Okay. And we decided to do this film.
In that 1.5 months.
In that 1.5 months.
Very tight.
Very tight, yeah. And for that, like, I basically came to Goa in the monsoon, which I'd never come. And I was playing a taxi driver. So I decided to drive taxi because that's the kind of way I work also. And also it just helps. It's not like, I think people overuse this term method. It's not about method acting. It's more about focused research and kind of being comfortable with things that you are going to be seen on screen with.
It's like internalization process.
Yeah, yeah. And also like it's important to know what the feeling of driving a taxi all day is. Like what kind of tiredness you come home with. What kind of marks are on your shirt sleeves because you're like driving, and like what you have to do if you have to change a tire. Like this kind of stuff. I feel that's the more authentic and real way to approach character to make film, rather than just getting a costume on the day and like somebody putting some scuff marks on it. If you actually get it by like practice, then you'll understand it. You'll understand the relationships in terms of class, when you're playing a taxi driver, especially in India. But I just, like, more than anything else, I just had a beautiful time because it was the peace, the greenery, the nature of Goa. I think it kind of also connected me back to California, where I'd been for 4 years. The easy pace of life, like, people kind of giving you space, the less traffic, the good food. There was a real peace in it. Like, I really loved my time driving taxi. I would drive, like, through the day, and it would be raining, like, like the wipers would be going gadak, 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 gadak. There was no network, so I wasn't on my phone or anything. I wasn't eating a lot of food because the character has cancer, so I was kind of losing weight for the part. But that fasting also helped me be in this ecstatic state in some ways, even though I was playing a very dark character in a dark film. So I loved it. I really loved it. My time there in Goa, and like, you know, and the film, I think, like, was made with lots of love, even though it's a very dark and crazy film. And at that point of time, was the seeds of me wanting to live in Goa was sown.
Okay.
But because I'm an actor, and like, you know, like a lot of people advised me against moving to Goa at that point of time, saying that no, you're living here, like your career is here, you have to kind of make sure you do everything here. I didn't leave Bombay at that time, which is, again, like, it's not a good or bad thing. Like, you know, like, I think ideas happen and then they actuate themselves according to their own time. So 2020, when the lockdown happened in Bombay, again, I rediscovered my love for the craft in some ways, because I realized that, like, in trying to pursue this idea of becoming an actor in Bombay, like, you know, like, you get into that anxious space of where are the auditions, what's happening, like, you know, like, should I be part of this, should I be part of that? And a lot of people around you kind of have that energy, especially if you're
and you go with a lot of expectation of other people, you know.
Yeah, correct. And people tell you, like, you know, like, why don't you, like, kind of go to the gym a little bit, you know, get a body, like, you know, you're a good actor, you're good looking, you could do that as well. And all these things start coming into play, you start questioning yourself. And what I realized is by 2019, I'd kind of sort of lost the love for the craft a bit, because I was kind of, like, you know, too caught up in that. So when the lockdown happened, it really opened up my mind. I know it was a very tough time for many people around the world, in India especially. I also lost people. But what it gave me was a moment to think, a pause. And I started reading books again. And within the lockdown, I made another short film, which Netflix approached me to make, called Delivering Smiles. Okay. And through that, I rediscovered how much love I have for this and this way of working. Yeah. So when lockdown opened up, actually, and Bombay came back to being Bombay, then I think I just couldn't take it anymore. And my friends also, my community of people from Calcutta had already sort of, half of them had shifted to Goa. And there was a space there, there's a community that I thought I could be part of. Okay. And that's when I moved, like a lot of other people at that time. I moved to Goa, and I've been very happy since. I think my work has also reflected
also that. Like Goa's proximity to nature, you know, in 100 kilometers, you're from a tiger reserve to, you can see the marine life, you know, and the proximity to nature also helps creativity, makes you calm somehow.
You know, like, I had a conversation with a student yesterday, and they were saying that the physical space gives you mental space. Okay. So Goa gave me that physical space, which again I had in California, for example.
What do you mean by physical space?
Just literally, like, there's less people here, like, you know, there's things are, like, Bombay is very, like, tight, right? Like, you know, like, there's every space and every corner. Bombay is amazing. Like, I love Bombay for many reasons, in many other ways. Bombay is like, you know, anything you want to get done, you can do. Anything you want at any time of day or night, you can get. You know, like, there's, like, if there's a corner that's open, somebody's going to stand there selling peanuts. You know, people utilize space in a very efficient manner in some ways. And it works. Somehow it works. This gargantuan city with all this craziness works. But Goa just kind of gave me time to breathe, like, just physical space, what you're talking about, these fields, you know, these empty streets, you know, this kind of, like, a slower pace of life, but also closer to nature, flora and fauna, animals, you know, like the being in the wild slightly. For me, as who I am, the kind of work I do, the kind of passions I have, really fed into my work. And that's something I'm really seeing now more and more, like, just observing. For me, for example, as an actor, it's very important to be observing animals. Okay. You know, and how animals are in the wild. I think, you know, there's kind of an instinct. That's why it's so fun to watch animals and children. Okay. Because they're always following their instincts. They don't care whether the camera is on or not. Whereas as actors, we're like, okay, camera's there. Like, you know, you kind of get a little bit. Yeah. So Goa gives a lot of space. And again, Goa gave me what California gave me in some ways, which was that you do not have to conform. If you're an actor, you don't have to look a certain way. You can, like, explore your feminine side, for example. You can explore different, like, the idea of gender is slightly more fluid here as well. Like, the idea of, like, status and class is slightly more fluid as well. Goa is one of the states where there's obviously class all over India. But in Goa, like, the workers here, the working people, do not see themselves as subservient. You know, if you drive taxi in Goa, for example, you are a regular person with a house and a family. You take your holidays as well. You take your breaks. Whereas in places like Calcutta, where I come from, to an extent Delhi for sure, and Bombay not so much, but still in Bombay also, there's this class structure built into the system, which I think really always kind of unnerves me. And, like, kind of, I don't know how to fit into that space, because I don't like being that privileged person of being in charge of everything and commanding. I want to be a worker. That's all I've always wanted to be. That's what I identify with. And that's how it's helped me do the kind of work I do and do it the way I have to do it. So it helps me in my work. If I claim the star space, it doesn't work for me. I've tried it and it doesn't work.
So now in Goa, you are trying to do the workshops, actor as makers, and whatever you said right now, like in the starting of that interview, you said like you'd like to read the whole script, you want to have the space to work upon yourself,
Yeah.
Is the same ethos you want to give it to the students? How is it? How are you structuring it?
Yeah, no, totally. I think it's called Actor as a Maker, and basically it started. The seed for this workshop started in SRFTI, Satyajit Ray Film and Television Institute of India in Calcutta, where the dean there, the head of department of the direction department, Anirban, he actually contacted me saying that the students want me to come and teach them acting. Because and they're not acting students, they're direction students. So they have a module where they teach direction students acting so that they know how to work with actors.
True.
And I was very
hesitant,
amazed by that actually. That they knew me firstly and that they had asked for me. And I kind of like, I think this is the kind of, not a culmination, but like all the work that I put in the last 10 years in the way I work, I think like people kind of have understood, and like there are people who kind of know and understand this way of working, and I'm very curious about it and see it as a way of going forward. So I'm very lucky and happy about that. So that's when I designed this module of not just thinking about actors as somebody who gets a script that you come and you execute really well and you look good and you kind of say your lines. This idea of dialogue delivery or expressions dena, like give expressions, like that, I don't think is what acting is. So you have to make creative choices. That doesn't always mean that you have to write and produce and direct yourself. That also is part of Actor as a Maker, but it's basically about getting that bit of space to make something which is very authentic and very truthful, which kind of is how people are, like rather than kind of performing and being outward of yourself. So this kind of way of working, I've realized is what kind of defines my way of working in certain ways or how I want to work. And I wanted to give young actors a space to develop that. Because nowadays what's happening is that there's a lot of young actors who move from different parts of India, the world also, to Bombay, and they want to work. And if they don't get into that sort of like that Bollywood mainstream kind of work, they think that, okay, where do they go? But younger people nowadays are breaking that trend. Like when we started out, we had to move to Bombay. But now they're going back to wherever they feel home at, where they can make something real, where they can make something beautiful, where they can relate to certain things, where they can get a team together, a community together, and make something interesting. And I think that's important as well, to kind of keep working on your craft, keep doing things, even if you're not getting that call from Netflix. You have to work. You have to work, and the work is not just getting work from outside and waiting for the work to come and like, twiddling your thumbs and all that. Be part of what is going on. Write your own stuff, like make stuff. That's how I started out. Like, you like with your friends, you kind of come together, let's make something. There's a creativity, there's a process. Theatre happens because of that, especially in Calcutta. Calcutta has no money, like we all know that. But we came together, Cat Sticks we made on barely anything. We came together, our school friends came together to make something which we wanted to make. And it's very important to work like that, I think. And that's something that I've relearned from younger people again, where in the middle you get lost a bit,
It looks like me that you are giving the agency back to the actor.
Yeah.
You are giving the pride to the actors. You're opening up the opportunities for the actor to claim his space.
Yeah.
Not only claim his space, I think that's very limiting.
Yeah.
But to be a part of this whole process, like the holistic process, like you are not just a fragment, you are also a part of the whole, that feeling.
And this is not just for the actors to feel better about themselves or anything. It's actually what I've seen is that's how the work gets better. So if an actor, it's not about actor taking charge and being like, I'll do it my way. It's about like making the work and working in a certain way, which people don't know about what the work of an actor is. People think it's about like just going up and like crying very well or like, doing your lines really well. But there's a lot more to that. And in fact, all the work for an actor has to be done before the film or before the play. And then like when you're performing, you have to just open your heart. So these kind of ways of working I want to introduce because I've seen it works. Like whenever I've had that agency, the overall product or the film has been better. And that's what I want to also give them. It's not just this idea of like, oh, we should be equitable and like we should like kind of come together and have diversity and all these things. All those things I've realized actually help the work become better. And that realization makes me happy, yes, because I like being equitable. I like diversity and all these things. I like fluidity in gender, all these things I like. But I've realized that actually kind of directly makes the work better. So that's been beautiful.
And it will have a better end product.
Yeah, literally. So you're making something better. That's why, again, like that's why my films have gone to like Sundance, to Berlin, to Cannes, to Busan.
Yeah.
Because there is something that has worked. Slam dance, you know, like it's something that has worked about it because people have come together in a certain way to make it.
There is sync has happened.
Yeah, there's a kind of way of like, yeah, you just go towards that. And that's why people say like, oh, you choose these projects. I'm like, no, I don't choose these projects. Like, this is what I don't think when I'm starting off working on a film that it's like, you know, people say, oh, ye to award film hai, ye festival film hai, ye commercial film hai. I don't think of films that way. You know, I think of it as a good story. How do we tell it? And once you kind of
and give your best to it.
And once you get that team together who trust each other and don't have that ego, don't have that hierarchy, have the space to create together, then it's beautiful. Obviously, the director's vision is what we all have to follow.
Yes.
Like if there's too many cooks, then you spoil the broth as well. But the director is kind of the leader, but like a good captain, they will let their players do what they are doing best.
True.
And just kind of now and then be like, okay, a little bit to the left, a little bit to the right. That's it.
Cool. And when is your next workshop coming up? Are you working on it?
Actually, I'm working on it right now. So with the workshops also, I learn a lot as well from these workshops. And now they've become a sort of a lab almost, where every workshop is an iteration. So the last workshop, whatever I've learned or something new that's come in, comes into the new workshop. And then I want to discover and play with something new.
Got it.
So there are a couple of ideas that are going around. It'll probably happen at the end of November, right after IFFI. Okay. And I also curate my workshops. It's not the first 10, 12 people. I only take 12 people. Okay. I don't want to like do 30 people workshops. It's not, doesn't work. And I curate the people in terms of balancing again, gender, class. I do scholarships also. Like it's very important to me because the workshop is better then. Not because of like, again, trying to be fair.
Yes.
Like, you know, like, so yeah, there's some couple of new ideas I want to work with, want to challenge myself and the students as well. So yeah, end of this month.
Cool. I think we're coming to an end of this conversation. And thank you for your time and all the best for your future endeavors.
Thank you so much, Nilankur. Yes. Thank you.
Thank you, audience. That was Tanmay Dhanania. I think you can read more about him on internet. And I will see you next week in Herald Cafe.